Okay, thanks everybody for coming to our Lab 15 provided by the CRUZ and the CRUZ Data Science Initiative. And today, what we're going to be talking about, I'm going to share my screen, is data imputation of well logs using regression model. So we have a guest presenter, Luping Qu, that's going to be presenting, and the co-hosts, me, Daniel, and Dave. So just starting the presentation. And it's not going. Okay, so today our guest presenter is going to be Luping Qu. She's a Ph.D. candidate at the University of Calgary and a member of CRUZ. And she's being supervised by Dr. Chris Inanen. And the co-hosts of today's talk is going to be me. I'm Marcelo Guarido. I'm a data scientist who is a Ph.D. in geophysics. And I'm the head of the CRUZ Data Science Initiative. And Daniel, would like to present yourself?
Yeah, I'm Daniel Prada, an associate professor in the University of Calgary, and I'm helping Marcelo with machine learning data science initiative.
Thank you, Daniel. And you, Dave?
And I'm David Emery. I've been volunteering with CRUZ and will actually be starting a PhD with Daniel in the fall at U of C.
Thank you. So just a small introduction, what is the CRUZ Data Science Initiative? So there is a consortium at the University of Calgary named the CRUZ, and the CRUZ Data Science Initiative is a subgroup that is focused on work on data science related to geoscience and engineering projects, mostly related to the oil and gas, but also with renewable energy and any other type of geoscience and engineering projects. We also provide programming training in R, Python, and MATLAB. That could be introductory training as well as for applications in machine learning, as well how to create apps using those tools. And we provide those learning labs. Those are bi-weekly webinars that we talk about the different applications in machine learning and data science related to geoscience projects or industry related projects. So you can even visit our website, www.cruz.org, and see our previous video, or you can even go to our YouTube page and check for the news, the recorded videos. So what we're going to be talking today, it's about our solution that in the participation in the Geophysics in the Cloud. That was a machine learning competition that happened last month. And the goal of these competitions, the Geophysics in the Cloud, it was to perform seismic inversion by using machine learning models. So by providing some information like some seismic parameters and the initial velocity models, you should perform machine learning inversion to get the P and S impedances and density for all the seismic volume. For the competition, they provided us different data sets for the training, 3 seismic volumes, the near, the mid, and the far stacks, P velocity volume for stacking or migration velocity, if I'm not wrong, and also 6 wells with wireline logs. So the goal, we're going to be using these wells in here and the wireline logs, mostly the DTC, DTS, and RHOB, to train your model using these other parameters. So this is going to be your target, and those are going to be your input parameters. The workflow for this competition initially was to get your data set from AWS servers. Then you had the analysis part where you checked the data. So you have to understand what you have and what was given to you, do cross plot of variables and decide what are the next steps So this is a data science project workflow. Then we had to pass through a cleaning process. So in this cleaning, we are just removing bad data like spikes from well logs. And what you're going to be talking in the East Learning Lab and the next Learning Labs is the imputation part. What happened is that the well logs that would be our target, the DTC, DTS, and RHOB, they had missing data compared to the whole depth of the well. So it was provided other well logs like gamma ray and density porosity, for example, that you could use, create regression models to complete those targets. The next part was to create augmentation. That's what is going to be presented in 2 weeks from now, where you use create new seismic attributes from the seismic data that we have to create new features and help in the modeling. And the other 2 labs that you're going to have, it's going to be about the modeling, 2 different solutions, one using a UNet and another using long short stem memory. So now let's go to our guest presenter. So Luping, if you want to share your screen.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Hi all, thanks for coming. Actually, we have 6 well log as a training data and 2 testing well log data as our testing data. 6 for training and 2 for testing. I'm one of the team members of this machine learning computation of the Cruise group. Today, I will give an introduction of the first step processing we did, which is the data imputation. Our goal is using the seismic data combined with the horizon information to predict the sonic well log data, including the P wave slowness, DTC, shear wave slowness, DTS, and the density. When we first got the training well log data, we found a bunch of data were missing in the well log file. To facilitate the following training processing, both the seismic data and the well log data need to be regularly sampled in time. Therefore, data imputation of the well log data is the first step processing we did. The data imputation just means we need to use substituted values to replace the missing data. As this is a competition, we used the practical and efficient way to conduct the data imputation. For example, we have 3 signals, and some part of the signal 2 is missing. We need to use substituted values to recover this missing data. Of course, it depends on our need. If the missing data are not necessary, we can use likewise deletion to delete the samples with missing values. When the size of the missing data is large, the effective sample size will be decreased. And besides, if the cases are not missing at random, the likewise deletion will introduce bias as well. In our case, the data imputation is necessary because we will use the well log data with regular time sampling. There are several imputation methods, include the hot deck imputation, cold deck imputation, mean substitution, regression imputation, stochastic regression imputation. The hot deck imputation means a missing value would be imputed from a randomly selected similar record. Cold deck imputation selects donors from another data set instead of the same data set we use now. The problem of these 2 methods are we may not find a very similar record from the data set. And we cannot guarantee no other factors can influence the missing variable. Mean substitution is replacing the missing values with the mean of this variable. Thus, the mean of the variable will not be changed. But in this way, the correlations of the imputed values and the relationship between different variables are attenuated. A common way we can think of is the regression imputation, using the current data set to obtain the relationship between different variables and then predict the missing values. The problem of this solution is errors in the variables are not estimated during the regression and prediction. Therefore, the regression model may overfit the noisy data. This can be solved through stochastic regression imputation. But we can also add the cross-validation to minimize the influence of errors. The stochastic regression is actually a little difficult to involve various regression methods. So the main tests are based on regression imputation with cross-validations. This is the original well-log data we have. And here we have the well ID, the two-way travel time, the depth, the coordinates, gamma, R shallow, R deep, rho, P wave slowness, S wave slowness. This information. Based on this data, we add additional variables to have a more clear relationship between these variables. These are the columns we have added. Of course, the redundant variables will be excluded for the regression. These three-column data will be used for the following processing, for the following training. But for predicting the missing data, we still need the information from the other columns to obtain the regression model. So we choose to impute all the missing data of this table, starting from the variable with the least missing values. After deleting the redundant columns, this is our table for regression and the prediction. The missing percentage of each column is shown here. 5 columns are complete with 0% missing data, and 8 columns have missing values. This is a rough plotting of the original 13-column data. The red box includes our target variables, DTC, DTS, and RHOB. The imputation order is from the least missing volume to the most missing volume. First, we will predict the well using the complete columns, which are two-way travel time, the TVDSS, inland, crossland, and formation. And then we will impute the columns in order from well, gamma, VP, diff log R, cal, N phi, rho B, and finally VS. Take the imputation of well as an example. We use two-way travel time, TVDSS, inland, crossland, and formation to predict the well. To conduct the regression, not only the non-values in the well column are excluded, but also the abnormal values. We use the percentile to exclude the abnormal values. The effective sample size for regression is reduced from 12,019 to 11,962. And for now, we can switch to the Regression Learner. Here we have time limit, so we use the Regression Learner in the MatLab. This is our input table to impute the column well. And our target is to to impute the missing data in the well column. So this is our target. And the predictors, we would exclude those incomplete columns. So this,
Luping,
hi.
sorry to interrupt you. Could you explain how did you get the data inside the MATLAB and then reading there in the regression app?
This is a JSON file. The original file is a JSON file. And we used to read table to read in the JSON file and export it to a table file in MATLAB. The command read table to read the JSON file.
Can you show? Do you have it's there? Oh no, you did in another code.
Yeah, I did it in another code. It's not in this code.
That's okay. Keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, it's just the command called read table. Because we have pre-processed the data several times, so it is added in another file.
So the original data that you downloaded was a JSON file, but when you get after the data cleaning was a CSV, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I understood. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And here we can include the cross-validation. Like we can increase the validation folds. This is to avoid the overfitting of our regression model. And then we can start the regression. Here we have several regression models to choose. For example, the linear, the tree model, the SVM regression, Gaussian process regression, and ensembles of trees. For example, we can first run the linear regression. So for linear regression, models are obtained through this training, and the best model will be highlighted here. It is evaluated by the root of mean square error value. And if we're using other regression models like this, now the fine tree model is the best model. The RMSE has dropped a lot. And we can also see the other values of this model, like the R square and a maximum absolute error or mean absolute error. And we can also find some other information of this regression model using the plot of predicted with the actual figure here. We can find the predicted values can match with the true values very well, and also the residual plot. And if we think this model is good enough, then we can export this model. Export this model to our workspace, like name it trained model 1. And then this model is saved here. So this is the regression model we have obtained. Then we can use the command, like data field is trained model 1.predict FCN and using the input table here, then we can obtain the predicted data. We can have a comparison of the predicted data with the original data. The predicted data is the blue line, and the original data is the orange dashed line. And we can find the for this column, the missing percentage is small, just 0.09 approximately. And we can find this value is an abnormally large value. Through the regression and prediction, we have excluded this value from our final data file. So this is the imputation of the well column. And then we can do the same for the other columns.
So Luping, are you doing all at once? So first you did the data imputation for the p-velocity, right? The DTC.
I first do the imputation for the well column, and then for the gamma column, and then for VP, for diff log R, for cal, for N5, for RHOB, and finally VS.
Okay, so first, okay, so you have to do one by one.
Yeah, it is done one by one, and we
Okay.
don't know. Yeah, we don't know what's the best regression model for each variable prediction. So we can evaluate the regression model through some values like R2 or RMSE to choose the best model and export those models to predict the data.
Okay. Okay, you have a plot there.
Yeah, this is the final imputed data for all these columns. We are using the regression learner because it's quite direct to see the residuals and the prediction quality of the result. But if you don't want to use the regression learner, you can also use some other functions in the MatLab.
Oh,
For example, for the Gaussian process regression, you can using these functions. And there are also some other functions for the linear regression and SVM regression models. So for this while imputation, we just decided to use this backed tree regression model, as this one seems to be the perform best. We have checked the regression model from these predictions and the residual plot. And so we replaced the NaN values in the well column and also those abnormal values with the predicted data, with the predicted values. For the regression learner here, we can find we have several regression methods to choose, like the linear regression, the SVM regression, Gaussian process regression, regression tree ensembles. And this method have their pros and cons. For example, the linear regression, it performs well when the variables have a clear linear relationship. And the support vector machine regression is more commonly used for classification. It works well when the data shows a clear margin of separation, and it is quite effective in high dimensional spaces, but it does not work well with noisy data. As for the Gaussian process regression, it can fit various nonlinear relationships and can provide the probabilistic prediction. As for the regression tree, it can differentiate the important variables with the not important ones and easy to interpret. But the problem is it may fall into overfitting. So we can decide which to use considering their pros and cons. And in our case, we mainly choose the model by the R2 and the RMSE values. So we just did the data imputation step by step. Next, we impute the gamma column. This is a comparison of the predicted gamma data with the original gamma data. And this is VP. This is diff log R. This is Kyle. This is N5. This is rho B. This is the VS. So this is the original data with this missing part. And this is the imputed data we have. At least we can find their trend can match well. And here we have six wells data. We combine them together into a large data set and included all the information, including the coordinates. We find in this way, the R2 value is much improved compared with dealing with the data set well by well. If you are more familiar with Python, there's also some regression tools in scikit-learn. This is shared by Marcelo. It is called iterative imputer. It can impute all the missing data automatically. We can tune the parameters like the estimator. In which, for example, we can use Bayesian ridge, decision tree regressor, XOR trees regressor, k-neighbors regressor, and we can also set the maximum iteration number of the n nearest features and the imputation order. I remember there are two examples in this website. In these examples, they explain in detail how to evaluate different estimators through cross-validation. To choose a suitable regression model, several factors can be considered. The first is the relationship between those variables. And second is the pros and cons of the regression method. And third is the model evaluation values like the R2 and mean square error, mean absolute error, those values. We thank the teachers and the researchers whom we have consulted during the competition. They actually give many good suggestions. And this is what we did for the data imputation part. Yeah, that's what I want to share today.
Okay, thanks a lot, Luping, for your presentation. I really like your solution. So you had to go manually one by one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And the interactive inputer, it has the advantage that it's going to do automatically for you. If you go for the scikit-learn interactive inputer, it's going to do automatically for you one by one, but it's not going to select different regressors. What Luping did, she did different regressors for that was the most suitable for that specific log. The interactive inputer is going to keep the same regressor for the whole process. So I'd like to open the room for questions. If anybody that wants to ask questions, you can unmute your mic or your video if you want to, and we are open for discussion.
I have a quick question. My name's Scott. Thanks for the quick presentation. I kind of joined late, but after doing imputing the various logs, I was just wondering, does it also create like a flag log or something where you can identify where you've imputed data? And I'm just thinking like when the logs are used in the next step for whatever model you're creating or whatever you're trying to interpret, if it creates flags for that, or will you just have to create some kind of difference log with the original logs to keep track of where you've imputed data? Or is that generally not done?
No, this is not included in this test. We just use the imputed data, treat them equally.
Okay.
Not treat them separately.
Okay.
But I think you guys left one blind well for evaluation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Scott. Any other question? Dave, Daniel, you always ask questions. Why are you so quiet today?
I can answer a question. Hey,
Good.
Luping, so you are doing in this imputation, you're connecting all the information from the different features at the same time sample, right? So basically, you are looking at every prediction that you're using in your gap has the influence of all the other logs that are complete until that point, but at the same time sample, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
The same time.
Right. And when you use the neural network approach, you also have only one time. You didn't try to make a neural network that will include several samples, like a convolution or something like that, right? You didn't try that, right?
Yes, there's a neural network fitting app here. I also tried this one, but it only only do the regression sample by sample. It does not include.
Okay, and no, that's fine. And the other question is, do you have any idea of which attributes were more important for each? I mean, some of the methods that you use, they provide you information about what are the importance of the different features. Do you check? Do you have the chance to look at any of that?
I think there's a feature selection here. You can select the features you think that is more important.
Right, but is you select manually, right? Or do you use any tool that would allow you to select the ones that have more importance?
Yeah, it allows you to select the feature selections, but this is done in this app manually. So you have to use other command to decide which is more important.
All right.
Like the feature extraction command, there are some command in MatLab. You can do that to find the importance of different variables.
And have you tried this function for this work or no?
No, this is not included.
Okay. Okay. Well, if you don't have any other questions, I think you can wrap this up. So I'm going to share my screen again. So I'm just going to finish today's talk. Just reminding that, where is it? For our next events, so May 27, we're going to continue talking about this competition, June 10th and June 24th. Those 3 next learning labs are going to be related to this competition, but for different parts. The next one is going to be the lab 16. We're going to be working with data engineering for the machine learning version. So how to use your geophysical background and also your data engineering background to create new features from the only 4 given to us as input to create more data for your predictions. And June 10, it's going to be presented by Kai. June 10 is going to be now the modeling part where UNet was used and performed the seismic inversion, where the seismic sessions were treated as an image, and it's done a kind of image segmentation, but for regression in 1D. And June, it's going to be presented by Janil. And June 24th is going to be our lab 19 with another solution, the long short-term memory, or LSTM, as a machine learning algorithm for seismic inversion. So it's going to be presented by Shang. And she actually got a pretty neat predictions by just using different models. So I'd like to thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And don't forget to follow us in our social media, like the YouTube, our Twitter, and our LinkedIn group. All our sessions, they are recorded and you can access them after. So if you visit the Cruise website, if you just go to cruise.org, you're going to come to this website. You can go to the research links and the data science on the nav bar on the side. So you can watch all our previous sessions and also download all the codes. We make all the codes open source for you to use. So we're going to do the same for this lab that you watched today. As well, you can follow us on the Cruise YouTube channel, where we're also going to be uploading the Learning Labs. As well, we're going to be creating short videos with some machine learning tips and also for seismic tips and FWI tips. Everything that you have been doing research about, we're going to be including videos on it. And also in our meetup group. So I'd like to thank you, everybody, and hopefully see you everybody in 2 weeks. So, bye.